All right. We're gonna go to the next subject, and we're gonna stay with the NFL. We're gonna talk. We're gonna be psychics here. We're gonna try to figure out if we can predict something here. We have four quarterbacks coming up this year, four legendary quarterbacks that most likely future Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Out of these four, who do you believe will retire first? Will it be Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, or Big Ben Roethlisberger? Who do you think, Keo?
I'm going with I'm going with Phillip Rivers, man. I think Phillip Rivers, um, his the past 2 3 seasons, his numbers have fallen. It just dropped. You've seen the decline. His accuracy is not there. Completion percentage down. And you look at the weapons that you got around you. When he during that time with the Chargers, with Keenan Allen, with Mike Williams, with Hunter Henry, you had Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler. You had the weapons around you, man, and he wasn't able to get it done. And Philip Rivers, a lot of people look at him as at his career as an overrated quarterback. He underachieved. He put up
Don't forget
gaudies.
about Antonio Gates and LaDainian Tomlinson.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Like you might
definitely.
want to back up a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. With those guys also, and he just had a lot of talent around him. And there was times where he had the opportunity to get past the teams like the New England Patriots in the postseason, and they just failed when it came down to it. And now you going to what, the Colts? I'm not confident with this Colts team and the offense that they have, man. I just don't think he fits in the system. I think he's gonna struggle, and I think it's just gonna be a long season for Philip Rivers. I honestly thought he should have hanged it up this past season, but he ended up signing a 1 year contract with guys like Brady, Brees. I think these guys, they're gonna, they're still gonna have good, decent seasons. I see them in the postseason. Big Ben, I think the only issue with him is as long as he's healthy. And Juju Smith needs some help when it comes to the Ben Roethlisberger and that wide receiving core. You always have somebody stepping up throughout the years, even if it's Antonio Holmes, if it's Hines Ward, if it's Mike Wallace, um, um, Antonio Brown. Then Juju Smith came along. They need They need that next guy up, that next guy to step up, and we haven't seen that yet. And if they could find a guy that could step up, that Ben Roethlisberger can go to besides Juju Smith, I think this team could be a huge problem in the North. But the guy that I'm taking out is I'm going with Philip Rivers. I think that guy is going to be the first to retire.
Marlon, what are you thinking, Marlon?
I would say Roethlisberger due to the
Wow.
injury, due to the injury factor. He's been the most injured of that group more often.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, he had an injury to his throwing arm. So, like, that's very, very huge. You say, Drew Brees had an injury to, the thumb on his throwing hand, which, kept him out all those games, which I'm sure it probably affected him late in the season. But for Ben Roethlisberger, that injury bug has not been kind to him. And, at a more advanced age that he is now, if he continues to get banged up, I just don't see him being able to come back another season. I think Phillip Rivers may have another year or two in him. The Colts have a pretty good offensive line. If they can keep him upright, I think that, he'll be able to compete in the NFC or AFC South and, do some things with Marlon Mack and T.Y. Hilton and Jack Doyle, all those guys they got there in Indy. but Roethlisberger, he stays hurt too much. And it's weird because the Steelers actually have a decent defense as far as front seven goes, you know. So it's like you got a good front seven that can put pressure on opposing quarterbacks, but I'm sure those guys get tired of going back on the field, you know, when, you know, Ben's on the sideline with a clipboard, you know, cheeks looking like chipmunks, you know, while Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph both, you know, play and stink it up on the field. If Ben can't stay healthy this year, I'm afraid it's a wrap for him. And, you know, I would advise him to hang him up after this season if he can't make it through the season healthy.
I kind of agree with you, Marlon. You make some good points. I have that same opinion as yours for different reasons. Number one, Tom Brady's going to play a couple more years. This guy's a fountain of youth. He came to.
Our division is going to end him.
Who? Atlanta?
The whole division.
Anyway, he came to Tampa Bay.
Oh my God! Why did you have to put it up?
You scared of that image, aren't you?
It's trash. His arm is. Look at his picture. His arm is about to fall apart. That TB12 method ain't working.
Well, he's not going to win the championship this year. So he will come back with the weapons he has. He will get close this year. He will make the playoffs, and he will come back for next year to win the championship in Tampa Bay. So I don't see him retiring this year. So that pretty much eliminates Tom Brady. Drew Brees, I think, will retire this year. But I think they're going to make a run in the playoffs. So he'll be around a little bit. So that kind of eliminates him as being the first to retire. If I were to pick one, I'd pick one that's not going to make the playoffs or not, win a Super Bowl. And I think Drew Brees has a really good chance to do both of those this year, make the playoffs and possibly win the Super Bowl. So I think he may retire this year. I look for him to retire this year, but I don't think he'll be the first to retire this year. Then that leads me down to two: Phillip Rivers and Ben Roethlisberger. I have 9 different reasons why Phillip Rivers won't retire this year.
Let us hear it.
I'll just show you. As long as he's popping out babies.
Oh, man, that was a big family.
He will continue to play. Because if you notice, he didn't come back to win a championship because he took a job at Indianapolis. No one believes Indianapolis will win a championship this year. They're not a contender. Some people see him as a playoff team. No one sees them as a contender to win the Super Bowl this year. So he came back because he wants to continue to play. He's not coming back to get that ring and then leave and ride off the sunset. That's not his goals. He got cut by the Chargers and he looked for a job and he found a job. He wants to continue to play. Now,
so you're saying he wants to keep getting those checks.
Did you see that family?
So I get what you're saying. You're saying he has a lot of motivation to continue getting those checks.
Yeah. And Big Ben, he's been talking about retiring now for 2 or 3 years. I mean, like last year, he talked about he wanted to retire. He decided to come back. And like you said, he's injured. I don't believe the Pittsburgh Steelers will make the playoffs this year. I think they'll be around 500 or so, and I think they'll be eliminated by the time the end of the season. The end of the season. So I think he will be the first one to retire officially. Now I think Drew Brees will retire at the end of the season. If Phillip Rivers can't get a job, he could retire at the end of the season. But I don't think he will choose to retire. It will be one of those Antonio Brown situations where, it's in his best interest because nobody wants to pick up the phone. That's my take.
So I got a quick question for both of you guys. I noticed you, Justin, you said that you don't think the Steelers are going to make the playoffs. Out of that list of 4 quarterbacks, which of those guys, it can be one or it can be multiple, do you think will not make the playoffs this upcoming season?
Oh, Tom Brady and Drew Brees is making the playoffs. And I think Phillip Rivers will make the playoffs. but it's borderline. What do you think, Kia?
I'm definitely going with Brady and Brees. Both of them are definitely making the playoffs. I don't see the Colts making the playoffs. I don't see. I think the Steelers with that extra team making the playoffs. I think they do have a good, solid chance because I like the leadership of Mike Tomlin. I think because last year, man, that team struggled, but they were still in the thick of things when it came into the playoffs with Mike Tomlin. So with the quarterbacks that they were dealing with last year, also without Ben Roethlisberger. So I think they have a great chance to make playoffs.
I could see the Buccaneers not making the playoffs.
Wow.
I could see that. I could see
America.
I could see the Steelers not making the playoffs because I know the Cleveland Browns haven't made the playoffs since they've kind of rebranded their team, but them along with the Ravens make it very, very hard for the Steelers in that AFC North division, if you feel what I'm saying. Like, you know, the Browns have become kind of a tough out kind of team. Like I watched a lot of their games last year, and they were pretty much in all of their games, you know, late in the game. They've become kind of a tough out type of team, and you know, those games between them and the Steelers are brutal. The games between the Steelers and the Ravens are brutal, and Roethlisberger having his injury history, I just don't see him coming out of the season unscathed and being able to, rally enough, will to want to play another season.
So, do you think the Cleveland Browns are going to make the playoffs?
They're a fringe team. They're kind of a fringe team. They'll be. They'll be in that 7-game, 8-game win total area. You know what I'm saying? Like they'll be somewhere in the mix right there.
Don't duck the question. Yes or no?
I don't know. It's a real hard question because
the Buccaneers may not make the playoffs and the Browns may make the playoffs. Is that what you're trying to say here?
I don't think the Buccaneers are going to make it because of them having Tom Brady there and, not having the preseason to kind of work through some of their kinks. I think some teams are going to get on them early in the season and they're going to be behind that power struggle. They're going to be struggling trying to climb their way up because we have a lot of good pass rushers in our division. You guys got some, we got a couple, I just think he's gonna struggle some. He's gonna struggle some and it won't be easy. He's had a cakewalk for 20 seasons in the AFC East. I think over the course of that 20 years, he's probably had a little bit of challenge maybe 3 times. And I think 2 of those times it was the Bills that kind of gave them the problems.
Don't forget about Mark Sanchez and the Jets.
Well, yeah. Sanchez actually he beat him in the AFC Championship game, if I'm not wrong. No. He beat him to go to the AFC Championship game.